The thing about the Old Testament is that it is old, and also that it points to something new, right? So as we look at the Old Testament, so much of it is pointing to the coming of a Messiah, who we know as Jesus, which means that a lot of the Old Testament is really waiting for Jesus to come into the life of the people of God. As you might know them as the Israelites or the children of God, right? And so you think about waiting. Most of the time, we don't like it. Our society, your society, so much of what you've known as you've grown up, you can have whatever you want really quickly, right? I have little kids. They want what they want now. And usually, depending on how lenient I am, they might get it, or depending on how much I don't want to listen to them whine, they might just get it, whatever it is. You think about maybe you're waiting from a more trivial, fun kind of side of things. You're waiting for a new map to drop, a new game to come out, a new movie to come out. You want that thing to be there now. Maybe you're in a season of life where you're just waiting for it to be over. You want to get out of this year of school. You want to get out of middle school altogether. You just want to be on to the next thing. And it can be really hard to wait when we're in something like that. Maybe you have something going on in your life that you're walking through that's just really difficult and you want it to be over with. And it's hard to wait, right? We all have these things at different times in our life, but when we look at waiting, we look at it as a bad thing. But you look at a sports team or maybe a band or a play that you're getting ready for, the work is done in the process. So much of what you get in that finished product, that finished concert recital, that finished play, that finished game, that competition, whatever it is, it's only possible because of the waiting process. You look at the life of Joseph, right? Joseph goes on this journey in the Old Testament in his life where he's thrown in prison, where he is waiting there, wondering if he's going to get out, right? His brothers sell him into slavery, and then he wonders if he's going to ever be rescued by this God, and he's just waiting in prison in a jail cell. And God rescues him out, and ultimately uses it for good, uses that entire situation for the goodness of God. You look at someone like Daniel, who's waiting in a lion's den, wondering if he's going to be rescued. Ultimately, if you know, now you know, he is rescued, right? God comes through. But in those times of waiting, you have Jonah in a whale. Jonah's waiting in the belly of a whale, wondering, is he going to be rescued? It almost makes you wonder about the wonder, right? It makes you wonder about that time of waiting and what God is doing in us through those times and what God did through the children of God in the Old Testament. While they're waiting, while they're projecting to this person who's coming to save them, not just from their earthly circumstances, but from themselves, from their soul, for their eternities. In the New Testament, Jesus fulfills over 300 prophecies. So those are things that are said about him in the past, right? Things that are said about him, mentioned about this coming of a Messiah. In the Old Testament, Jesus fulfills in the New Testament over 300 things. So just to know that in the waiting, there are things that we can learn. There are things that we can learn from the Old Testament as they're getting ready for the coming of Jesus. And so my question for you is, what is it that God wants to do in the seasons of waiting in your life? And what can we learn from the people of God as they waited for the coming of Jesus in theirs?